Most people are shocked when they find out how bad I am as an electrician. All right, what's up, Flock and Model Railroaders? This is Alan here from Mason-Dixon. Yesterday I talked about the Kato unitrack double crossover, and today I want to dive in a little bit. I don't hate these. There are some inherent flaws with them. One being that they aren't wired straight through. When you put these on your layout, you have to feed both ends, unless you want to make some internal modifications, and that's what I'm going to do. The other inherent thing that happens with these sometimes is the diverging routes don't get fed, and that's because the little feeders that they have installed on these sometimes don't connect, or the solder breaks. And I know, buyer beware when you buy these on Facebook. I bought one of these on Facebook. I bought the other one from Kato's Amazon page. Both of them had flaws with diverging routes. So I've had these open numerous times already. The other issue is if you don't close them up very well, they tend to be a little unbalanced. That could cause some uncoupling issues, so I want to resolve that as well. What was the other thing? Oh, if you decide to use the electronic switches on the Kato unitrack, it is a snap switch, so it's a click very fast. I did see some forum posts or some posts on the T-Trak pages about making them slow throws. I'm not going to get into that today. I'm going to keep everything manual for right now. That's a story for another time. But anyway, the mechanism that does the snap throws is actually wired with this teeny tiny thread-like wire. So if you are messing around with these and you bump something, that wire could come off, or it could just come off on its own. So I've heard that's an issue as well. I'm not going to get into fixing that today. Today I just want to fix I want to wire this internally so that the straight through portions work. So let me show you what I mean here. So I've got my multimeter set up on continuity. Should be able to hear that. And everything's set for straight through. I'm going to do the outside line first. Okay, as expected. Do the inside line. It doesn't work. Doesn't even work to there. So, and same thing on the opposite side. The inside line, outside line, continuity. So they do this on purpose, I guess, for depending on how you're going to wire it. So really, when you're running and installing these, you would put feeders on each end. And that's one option you can do. You don't have to take this apart. In my case, I'm still going to have a feeder on the one area because it's coming off of a switch. But the rest of it, if I wire it internally, I shouldn't need extra feeders. I'm not going to get into the debate on how these work in a T-Trak module. Technically, if you're running in a club environment where you've got the red and the yellow lines and you're wired blue, white, white, blue, these crossovers cause problems because you're running potentially between two DCC systems, potentially between DC and DCC, and it's not really recommended for the club layouts when you're joining a bunch of friends and you're getting together. I'm trying to set up an operations module primarily for myself. Yes, I'll take it to some club layouts and some shows. And in that case, during those shows, I will not be using this, or will be making modifications to have like a, what do they call it? A reverser, so that you can run through these without issues. But in my layout, I'm going to wire it so that I can actually run a locomotive through this without issues. So I'm going to dive into this. Now, I've had these apart numerous times. So that's what's causing the unbalanced issue. But I'm going to wire it so that those internal pieces are connected for the straight throughs. And we're going to test it and get it all back together. So let me get started. If you've not done one of these before, I would recommend watching a couple videos. There's a really cool forum post that if I if I find it before or after the video goes live, I'll post it in the description or the comments, because that was really helpful. There are a few tricks to doing this. I would typically recommend that you do one side at a time, because if you bump this at all while you're working on it, everything kind of shakes around and gets lost. So you want to be take lots of pictures while you're doing this the first few times so you understand all the pieces. Like I said, I've done this a few times. You can see I bent this a little bit too much. So I'm going to try to bend this back so it's flat when I take it off. This should pop up. There we go. Of course it did, and I didn't grab it. All right. Just have to wedge it out just a little bit. And it'll pop out. Yeah, be careful. That is very thin, so. And I'm really going to pick this up while I've got this down here, because, like I said, these pieces will pop out, and I'll have to put some springs back and stuff like that. So in this case, since I'm wiring, I'm going to run the wire for the those internal tracks. Call it the white line as opposed to the blue line. I'm going to wire them and run feeders straight through. So you'll get to see my soldering skills, or non-skills. Now, overall, I still recommend Kato unitrack. It's pretty much your only option if you're doing T-Trak, although they do make end modifications now that you can connect to other Kato unitrack and run whatever track you want in the middle. See, this one has a little piece that popped out, so I want to make sure that goes somewhere where I find it. In the meantime, we're going to take this one out as well, because I know it's going to pop out anyway. This is set to straight through already. Essentially, I'm going to also pop this middle piece out, which shouldn't really pop. It should just gently pry up. Okay. I'm going to leave the switch feeders in there. I may use them down the road, and I don't want to damage it. I've already drilled a hole in my module, so those feeders will go right down through there. So right now I'm going to also show you the continuity test. So essentially, we want to go from this pad to this pad, and they're not connected, and same thing on the inside. And what I'm going to do is just drop a little solder on that pad right there. Get that pre-tinned. I'm going to use a little bit different wire than I used before. Okay. Just a little dab on each of these pads. And put that away. We'll need it to tin the wire too. I'm going to use a different wire than I did last time. Last time I used I use this wire down here that I bought off of Amazon. It is a 24 gauge. Came in then this nice pack of different colored wires, which I thought was pretty cool. The problem is, although the wire is 24 gauge, the sheath or shielding or coating on these wires is very thick. So in my case, using it for internal in here, there's not a lot of room in here at all, because I'm going to feed it directly from that pad to that pad. So in that case, tip looks good. So we're just going to get a little bit of solder right there. And right here. Just want to get it on the ends. Don't want to touch anything else. I definitely don't want to mess with the mechanism at all. So we'll test that too once we get the wire down. So the wire I am going to use, because I have it available, is also 24 gauge, 24 AWG. This is blue-white wire for telephone cabling. This is the wire you would see a telephone guy use when he's running wires in the phone closet, specifically at the 66 block. This is a pair of it, blue-white, white-blue. That should be perfect. Get this out of the way before I melt it or burn it or something. I happen to have a spool of it. Don't ask me how I got it. Don't ask me. All right, these don't have to be together, but I am going to trim them to size because I want it to be exact length for the wire. And it doesn't matter the color. No one's going to see this ever again. Just going to get these both ready so I can tin them both at the same time. Just taking the coating off the end there, and I'll trim it up after I add a little dab of flux. Because I don't trust myself holding this, I'm just going to bring out these. My luck is I'll still burn my hands. So if you ever tried holding wire while you're soldering, you know what I'm talking about. I'm just going to tin these. Oops. Steady as she goes. All right, they're tinned. Looking good. All right, so now when I drop these in, I'm just going to do one. And I'm going to trim off most of that. I only need a little bit. This is where you start to do like gymnastics to make this stuff work. So might hold on a second here. I might have screwed up something. Take a closer look. Go too far wire. Nope, we're good. Yeah, we're good. These wires, these are the little wires I'm telling you about. If you take one of these apart, you just need to be extremely careful. And then I'm going to grab the camera here and bring it down so I can show you this really close. close up here, these are the pads. Geez. These are the pads that I just added the solder to. These are those tiny little wires that I was telling you about. Those are for the switch machines, which are these gold snap switch mechanisms. One of the other things I forgot to mention about these switches is that this bar is what connects your diverging route. This bar I had to pull this screw out and basically bend these down a little bit so they were making better contact with the pads. Otherwise, it just wasn't making good contact. So that was another deficiency I had to fix for a couple of these that just weren't working properly. The other piece I wanted to show you here is these holes right here. This is the feeders to the tracks. And sometimes they're broken or the solder's broken, etc., and you'll have to resolder them. You can see here's one back here that I did. I fixed it. It's a little rough looking. That's okay. It's on the back side, but it does make the connection now where it wasn't before. So again, just a review, I'm going from this pad to this pad over here. And I'm going to run my wire right through the middle here. So I want the thinnest wire possible so that I don't mess up any of the plates or the bottom. So let me get you set back up here and we can carry on. All right. The other thing I forgot to mention earlier is you will need some Kapton tape. I'm going to put a little bit over top of these solder joints that I'm making, or solder connections that I'm making, just so that I don't create an electrical contact with the metal covers. I don't know if that's necessary, but it was recommended, so that's what I'm going to do. So we can get set up here and see if we can actually get these wires soldered into place. Now, if all goes well, I shouldn't need any extra solder. I should be able to just get this to connect. Of course, my watch is going off, so that's I'll claim that as the reason why I missed that connection. A little bit closer there. All right, so that one's down. If I can, I want to get it inside the groove with that other wire. We'll see. It does snap down in there. But let's get it all the way over here so we can do the trimming. Off for a second. Let's actually do this one too while we're here. Just get both sides done. Work from one side to the other. Right. And solder's being a pain. It is down. Just don't like the way it soldered in there. There we go. There we go. Much better. All right, so now I can route these, bring them all the way over. I'm going to trim them to size because there is no extra room in here for wires, and I don't want to cross them. Wouldn't that be funny? Okay. This one over. Trim it to. Now, Kato unitrack isn't bad totally. I know I said that earlier, but you know, in the scheme of things, when you're running Kato unitrack, it's very easy to put together. It's very simple. It's easy for a novice. There's a lot of benefits. So yes, it tends to be a little pricey, but then everything seems to be pricey lately. So in the scheme of things, you know, you get a very reliable switch. Trains go through. Pretty much every rolling stock or locomotive that you use is going to go through with moderately to no issue. Let's turn this off temporarily. Oh, that's fine. I'm going to tin these ends as well. Of course, I've got to get them in my extra hands, which I just pulled apart. No problem. All right, let's. Okay. And okay. Should be good to go. Did melt my wire a little bit. Didn't mean to do that. But we'll see if we can get this down. Now, this wire is solid core, which I think is going to make an excellent choice for feeder wires and stuff like this that doesn't move very often. I would choose something different if I was going to run something like the Kato connectors that go on the outside of the module, the power connectors. That you would want something that's a little more flexible. Okay, that one's down. Get that pretty much out of the way. Okay, that one's down also. All right. So now the tricky part. Want to try and get these wires down, and then I also want to make sure I don't forget to put my Kapton tape on. So let's see how bad we can do this. And again, you want to be very delicate with these. If you jiggle, bounce, nudge this the wrong way, you're going to have pieces that come out. I already do have one or two arms that have come out of the switch. I know you can't see them on the camera, but I've got my magnifying glasses on as I'm working through this so I can see everything and just be very attentive to stuff. And before we close it up, we'll test everything first to make sure. I want to try and get these wires down as far as I can as well so that nothing sticks up. And this will help the module, or the switch rather, lay flat. And that will help trains run through and not derail. So it's just a matter of working this in to the channels that we have available. And I don't want to mess with any of the mechanisms or any of the other pads. Side's looking pretty good. So what I might do is button up this side first, but I want to test it first. So let's test our continuity, because this should already be fixed. So if you remember in the beginning, when I went pad to pad, it was not working. That one works. That one works. And of course, they're not cross-threaded anywhere. Cross-threaded, cross-wired, whatever you want to call it. All right, so let me get this mechanism back in place. There's various different ways to do this, but essentially you want to have a very light hand. And if you have fat fingers like I do, you're going to want to use a tool to do this. And again, refer to your pictures that you took when you took it apart. There's good pictures online as well. Probably I voided my warranty. But you know what? One of these switches was brand new from Kato. And by the time I figured out and started to use it, it was past the Amazon warranty. So I know the one that I bought off of Facebook Marketplace was going to have issues. That's on me. But man, I was really expecting this one to not have issues. So I still had to solder those little feeders. But we're good to go now. So let's get this wire down. And the first time I did this, it took a long time to do. You might be looking, thinking this is not fun. This is actually pretty relaxing. I'm just going over everything right now to make sure I've got the wires out of the way. And with that, I'm going to pull off some Kapton, whatever it's called. This shiny tape that prevents electrical transfer. All right, I'm gonna cut a few small pieces of this. I need to just get away with a piece about that size, a piece about that size, possibly. Let's just set that aside for a second. And the reason I'm doing this is just in case my solder pieces ended up being a little too tall. It'll prevent it from going into the base. So just going across those solder pieces, and I'm trying not to interfere with the mechanism. at all. So that should be good there. Let's do a double check on my wires. See if I can get this guy down a little further or go in a different way maybe. And then I'm going to want to get this wire out of the way also. And back in the channel. If I can get all of them in there, I will. Okay. It's a little tight, but I think it's going to work out just fine. All right, so again, I'm checking my springs, my guides, making sure everything's good. I'm not going to bother moving the switch, but I need to put these things back on. There are little covers that go over these springs. And as long as you took a picture and you know how they go in, there's a little slot that they slide into, but they're not glued. And again, if you bump this, everything's going to pop out. So you want to be extra careful and smooth with your movements here. So this is a moment of truth. I want to try and get all my wires in the middle and push that piece down. Oh, that looks really good. It's going all the way down for the most part. Like that. Okay, let's make sure these pieces are as flat as possible before I put them in. All right, this one's good. This one's kind of a pain because it's got the wiring for the switch right next to it, which, you know, technically, since I know I'm not going to use that, I could pull it out, but you never know. I might decide to modify this in the future, and therefore I'll want it for some reason. So bear with me as I get this lined up. Actually, I might try the easy side first. I know you're just looking at my hands here, but those are pretty flat, so that's good. See if I can get this in here. This one will probably drop right in. And I'm in the middle of a text conversation with some people at work, so that's why my text alert is going off. And my watch is beeping. They apparently think that now is a good time to talk about work stuff. Disagree. All right, so that's in on that side. Let me see if I can get this side on. Oh, it would help if I put it in the right way. I wonder why it's so freaking hard. Yeah, it helps if you put it in the right way. It only goes in one way. You kind of have to bend it up just a tad bit to get it to slide in, and then it should fit flat. don't like that for some reason. Something might have popped out. So let's err on the side of caution here. We're going to pull it back up. Okay. I was a little rough with that, so things probably bounced out of, yep, I can already see that spring bounced out of where it needed to be. I want to make sure that goes back in. And then this piece goes back on. Okay, and we're going to try this again. It was a little tight in there. I think some things popped out. I don't know if that needs to be there. I'm going to push that on the other side to try and loosen some of that congestion in there. All right, here we go. Yeah, it works a lot better when you put it in the right way. Okay, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Let's get some screws in here and we'll flip this over and do a little bit of testing. All right, so flip this over. We'll do a continuity test real quick. That should have fixed my problem. So stand by. Okay, so we're going to do the inside to inside. Now we've got continuity. We've fixed the inherent flaw with Kato unitrack, but for some reason I don't have continuity right there. Why? Was I supposed to run another one? Got it there to there. What am I missing? There we go. Continuity. Continuity. I'm missing it right there. I'm missing it right there. So that is likely the little switch piece. So I'm gonna have to take it apart again and make sure that the switch is getting connection. So as you can see, it's not a perfect world and I don't have it completely right. Even that one's a little hesitant. But this side, for some reason, I got end to end, but this side, the side with the cable on it, I'm missing just that internal connection. And it could be the feeder. So I'll check that again as well. That could be the piece that's broken. It's just the feeder between the module on the back and the track. Or it could be the actual that little switching piece that goes back and forth. So I'm going to flip this over. And since I'm in here to do this, I'm just going to, I'm already in the zone. Might as well just get it working. All right. Okay, so I can almost see, it looks like the solder's broken right there. So I'm going to have to fix that. That seems a little loose also. So I don't know if my screw is loose. But I'm definitely missing a feeder right there. So I'm going to add some solder to that little spot. This is going to end up being a longer video than I thought of me just fixing switches. Okay. A little bit of burning plastic. That's okay. Don't like the way this one looks, so I'm also going to do that one. And then we'll check once we're done here. Hopefully from the back, the idea is from the back, you won't see. Okay. All right, let me button this back up and we'll check and see if that fixed our problem. I feel like I need to pull some of that solder off of there. That's a lot of solder. Mm. Okay. I'll call that good. All right, let's see if we can get this down. Button up again. No, I'm telling you, if it's electrically wrong, fine. All right, let's check continuity. Negative. Negative, Ghost Rider. I'm going to have to mess with that a little bit more. As you can see, this is very finicky, and it's just going to take me some more time to go through this. I'm probably going to put a little wire in on that feeder. So I can get it to connect. Likely that is the issue, though. But I want to get it working before it's on the layout. That's the goal. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've learned a little bit about these unitracks, Kato double crossovers, and hopefully the one you get isn't as complicated as this and it just works out of the box. So that's all for now. It's definitely one hell of a way to run a railroad. Thanks, guys.